I'm just like, do you know what? We all need to lighten up, even in spirituality. Even in spirituality, because I watch a lot of spiritual things that are very, very serious, and that's not what I saw. That's not what I saw. And it's very, and we're all going to be silent, and I'm going to dress in these special things, and you're going to dress in those special things. Somebody ring the bell. And I'm like, we're making an identity out of it. And remember, this game is to shed our identities. Do you know what I mean? So that's my closing statement, a bit controversial, is what even if the identity we make for ourselves as a self-realized person isn't true. Do you know what I mean? We're letting go and letting go and letting go until there's nothing left. Not until there's something I enjoy being more than that. No, letting go until there's nothing left.
I love the way you said that somebody ring the bell somewhere his clothes, because I had the same realization and I was like, why is everybody so serious about this? You know, why? It's the biggest joke that could happen.
It's nothing. It's a big poof of smoke of nothing. It's nothing.
Welcome to Silent Sage Speak, the podcast where timeless wisdom meets the present moment. I'm your host, Sukhdev Virdee, and in each episode, we delve into the profound teachings of non-dual masters, those who have transcended the boundaries of duality and reveal the simplicity of existence. Join us on this journey beyond words as we explore the essence of being with those who have realized the truth that goes beyond language, beyond thought. Open your mind, silence your chatter, and let the wisdom of silent sages resonate within you. Today, my guest is from Glasgow, Scotland, who had a spontaneous Kundalini awakening in 2022, followed by a full realization 2 weeks later. He was an atheist and had no spiritual background before his realization, but today he mentors and guides others on the path by sharing his story of how self-realization is not some exotic achievement that you need to prove yourself worthy of. I'd like to welcome to the show Paul-Beckett. Welcome to the show, Paul.
Hi, Sukhdev. Thanks for having me.
It's an honor to have you. I watched a few of your videos on YouTube and I said, this guy seems so genuine and so down to earth. And he's talking about non-duality, and he talks about Kundalini awakening, which came spontaneously. Uh, Tell me, Paul, you're from Glasgow, Scotland. Have you always been there? Were you born and brought up there? Tell me about your childhood. Did you have any spiritual background and how you came into spirituality?
I'm actually from Liverpool in
Oh,
England.
yeah,
Just,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
just live in Scotland now.
Okay.
Um, but it's been a really I don't know. Obviously, since all of this has kind of happened, if anything has happened, nothing's really happened. But since awakening, I've obviously become more familiar with other people's stories, other teachers, other pointings, things like that. And I realized, hang on a minute, my story seems a little different. I wasn't really seeing this story being told, and that is part of the reason really why I started making any content at all. It was through the fact that, like, I was an average Joe. I called myself an atheist.
Yeah.
I believed we were animals that are born because two other animals have had some kind of interaction, and we lived, and whatever happened in the life happened, and then we died, and that was the end of it. And that was honestly my belief. I was brought up Roman Catholic, and I went to a school run by nuns, so it was pretty hardcore.
Okay.
Um, and one problem that I always had growing up was this idea of a judgmental God, this idea of a God that wanted to punish,
Yeah.
this idea of a God that created something to fail, basically. And I never ever understood it. So for that reason, I think in my little however year old head, I just decided, oh, this is not for me. This must not exist, because what you're telling me just doesn't seem true. And that's absolutely no disrespect to any organized religion. It's but that was my experience growing up.
Yeah.
Um, Moving on from that, I suppose I was always a really creative kid. And because of it, I was creative. I was really open-minded. So just because the world told me that something was like this, I never really took that as the truth until I understood it myself. So I did have a few experiences growing up that actually, now I think about it, were spiritual experiences, but I just didn't realize that they were spiritual experiences.
Yeah.
I remember one in particular when I was a baby. Now this is before I was 1, so you're not supposed to have memories from this. But I had some kind of medical condition that meant that I nearly died. And growing up, I always said to my mum, I remember a room, and I remember where the window was, I remember where the people were. And she went, you're describing the room that you were in, the hospital room you were in as a child, as a baby. She said, but you're too young to remember that. She said, I must have told you about it. And I was thinking, no, because I could remember what the sound was like outside of the room. And I remembered watching a baby being held at the window, but I was stood at the back of the room, and I was stood at the back of the room with what seemed like an older, taller person. And I remember just watching what was going on.
Yeah.
And that was that. And I always had this memory. And I just thought to myself, oh, it's my imagination. I'm creative. I've got a big imagination. But
Yeah.
actually, now I was like, somehow I wasn't in that baby's body when that was happening. I was watching it from outside. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah. Absolutely.
So there was a few things like that. I used to have a recurring dream when I was little
Okay.
about a man who lived. My mum had this bedroom that had another small room off it, but for some reason she pulled a wardrobe in front of the door. So when I was a kid, I was petrified of this little room, what was in this little room, or I was a scaredy cat kid.
Yeah.
Um, and I used to have this dream about a man that lived in the room that I was petrified of. And the man had a beard, and he had tattoos, and he had a hairy chest, and one after post realization, I don't know, something was happening. I looked at myself in the mirror and I thought, I'm the man I used to dream of. I
Oh,
used to dream of my older self. And it's like I'm covered in tattoos. I don't know, you can see. And when I
wow.
looked, it's like, God, that's the image that I used to see in my dream. That was the man that I was afraid of. And I was like, wow. You could, at the time, I didn't know that, obviously, but now I look back and I'm like, so there was always something there. There was always something.
Wow, what a story. I can relate to uh the the part where you say you saw yourself being born. That's like you are the witness to what was happening, and you are not involved. And I'm sure you would know that nobody in the room knew that you were watching that. They were all just going about doing their things, and you were just a witness to what was going on. I've had many of those kind of experiences. But this is a new one where you are dreaming. You had a recurring dream of what you are gonna be later on in life. That's something new for me. But you speak about, so did this have any impact mentally in thoughts, beliefs, uh, behavioral changes?
I just always put it down to the fact that I had a big imagination. I was
Okay.
always super creative, always painting, always drawing, always making things. So I suppose at the time when I would have these ideas, I would just think, oh, it's just my imagination. I've just got a big imagination.
Okay.
And so I went through life, really, really average life. Like I say, calling myself an atheist
Yeah.
to a point that when somebody had faith, I felt a bit sorry for them because I felt a bit like they were deluding themselves.
Yeah.
I was a little bit like, oh, that's okay, you're playing that little game with yourself. But I didn't believe to the point that I thought when people did believe, oh, poor you. It's so funny to me now that I ever could have thought that.
Yeah.
Um, but um, I moved to Glasgow, and I started having strange experiences again. I couldn't really at the time say that they were spiritual experiences, but I started to think that strange things are happening. I started waking up in the night, in the middle of the night, and needing to write things down. And I would write down and I started writing down poems. I'd never wrote poetry in my life. In fact, Paul was dyslexic, which is something else which doesn't appear to be here anymore. Um, and I was using words that I didn't really understand. Anyway, so my partner would get up, it was like be 3 a.m. something, and find me scribbling on things. Be like, what are you doing? I'd be like, oh, I just need to write this poem. And it was so strange because it was, and I never questioned it even. I just thought, I've got such a big imagination. I don't know where this is coming from. And I never looked at the poems and thought, what do they mean? Until afterwards. And I was like, every single poem here was kind of preempting what was going to happen somehow
Wow.
in a different way. Each one is completely different, but each one is Now reading it with the understanding I have, it was like I was preparing myself for something.
Oh, wow.
So just strange things, well, what, the entire world is strange really, but things that maybe aren't happening to people every day were happening. And this culminated in a couple of experiences where I would just feel a heavy bliss sensation. I suppose I was slipping into a meditative trance, but I didn't really realize that that's what I was doing, because I didn't meditate, I didn't do anything like that. But I had a few experiences that you could call maybe like an ego death, where I just wasn't a person. I didn't know words. I wasn't in a body. And my mind would kind of click in and be like, oh, this is scary, but then wouldn't last for very long, because the bliss that I felt in this state was just, it was just incredible. It was just this connection, this sense of utter relief of, oh, everything I thought was real wasn't real. That was just a relief. Oh, it was all just a big story. And so this happened a couple of times, and then my mind would come back online and I would think, wow, what was that? And my mind would start telling me, you can never do that again. You can never do that again. That is like, you almost died there, or something like that. Like it was something really bad.
Yeah.
But I couldn't deny that it was the most blissful, peaceful feeling that I'd ever had. So I started asking the question, if I was there and I wasn't the story of Paul at all, what am I? Because I was 100% there, but I didn't recognize myself as Paul.
Yeah.
I was something else. So I suppose I was asking this question again in my head. What happened there and what am I? What happened there and what am I? Again, not realizing that this was a form of spiritual seeking. I didn't realize that there was anything spiritual to it.
Yeah.
Until one day I was in the city centre of Glasgow, and I had this feeling and it felt very in my body. And all of a sudden I panicked. I thought, whoa, something's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen, but something's going to happen. And I clutched at my stomach, and I felt a feeling in like my groin, the bottom of my groin. And it started rising through the body. And with it came this heat like I've never felt before, like this searing heat. But when I touched myself, I didn't feel warm. It was just inside. And I could hear like a noise, like a zzz, like an electric zap noise kind of.
Yeah.
And I'm just at this point, my mind is going crazy, and it's like, I think I'm having a stroke, or I think something bad's happening. There's something medical is happening here. And this feeling rose and rose and rose until it got to the top of my head. And then I felt all of a sudden like I wasn't in the place that I was in. I felt like just all of a sudden I didn't know where I was, but I was still in the street, but I just felt like I wasn't there physically somehow. And I had this feeling of, when you're a little kid and you blow bubbles and they've kind of got that kind of rainbowy kind of gloss on them.
Yeah.
I had this idea of this rainbowy gloss, and then it went, and I just was like, whoa. I was gasping for my breath, and I was like, my mind again, what just happened? I think something bad just happened. And then again, this feeling of utter bliss. Now, I think as a human, I could have said before, I'd felt happy. I'd felt things that I'd got what I wanted sometimes, and that had pleased me, but I'd never felt this feeling of just bliss for bliss's sake. It was causeless joy. It wasn't to do with anything. It wasn't to do with an achievement or a thing. It was just it felt like what I am. It felt like I'd saw myself for the first time. And so again, I'm asking these questions. What? Because at this stage, I didn't know what Kundalini was. I'd never heard the word before. So I'm still thinking that maybe it was something medical that happened to me. But I had to ask myself the question, how do I feel? I was like, I've never felt better. I was also thinking, it's like I'm not in the same world that I was in earlier on. If that makes sense, it was like everything was different. Everything was so different. Again, I just thought to myself, wow, listen, keep it to yourself, because people are going to think you're crazy. And I told one person, I told my best friend, because she's a nurse, and I said, I knew she wouldn't judge me. I called her up and I said, listen, something happened today, and I need to just try and explain it to you, because I'm different. I told her, she kind of said, listen, it doesn't sound medical. If you're feeling fine, you're feeling good, go with it. I said, okay. And then in those 2 weeks, life was so different. It was like there was no effort to anything. Everything happened so easily. I wasn't thinking ahead with things. I was always a forward planner. And I would always, think of what might the worst case scenario be in this situation and have a plan B. And the mind was always very active. And all of a sudden I realized that I just wasn't doing that. I wasn't planning ahead. I wasn't thinking, I wondering what this other person's thinking. And I wonder, just wasn't doing that. And things just seem to be happening so effortlessly and so perfectly. So again, I'm asking the question again and again, what happened? What happened there? Why are things different? And I had no answers for it until 2 weeks later, I went to the gym. And in these 2 weeks, it's like when I've gone to places, people would just come up and speak to me. I was on the street, I would get speaking to strangers for no reason. Like people seemed attracted to me. And I didn't. And again, I knew that was different, but I didn't understand why. And so I'm in the gym and this guy's speaking to me. And I think he said something like, it's like the law of attraction, isn't it? And my body literally went stiff and turned to him. Like it was like, listen to this. And I was like, what does this mean? And I thought, I've heard of this before, but like culturally, but I don't really know what it means. The law of attraction, I've heard that phrase before. And then something came into my mind. Oh, there's a book called The Secret. And I thought, I'd never read it, but I was aware of it. I was aware that people wanted to be richer or more beautiful or whatever, and they were trying to use this law of attraction to do it. So I thought, right, maybe I need to go and buy this book because I've been asking questions and something felt like this is a little trail of breadcrumbs towards an answer maybe. And so I went to go and get changed in the gym and I opened the locker and then I fell into that meditative state again. And I was looking in the locker and it was like the locker went on forever. It was like it was the universe. I was looking out into this vast space. And I almost felt drunk. There's a drunken feeling to it, or it's like so I'm staring into the locker. And then this thought occurred to me. It didn't feel like a thought. It felt like I remembered something. It didn't feel like something new. It felt like something I'd always known, but I remembered. And I said the word, I didn't have another word for it. And I said the word, I am God. And I started laughing when I said it because it seemed so outrageous, such an outrageous thing to say. And again, I calmed down and I said, I think I'm God. And I started laughing again. And then this feeling inside me of it was like every cell in my body like rejoiced. Do you know what I mean? And I was like, I think whatever God is, I'm that. And I started crying. I just started crying straight away because I knew it. It wasn't like a crazy idea. It was like remembering something that was always there, shouting to be remembered in my mind, but I'd just been ignoring it. That's how it felt. It felt like this voice had been saying the same things for my entire life, and I'd done my best to ignore it. And all of a sudden, I just became aware of it. And with that feeling, my mind kicked back in, and it said, "No, you can't be this because what about this? What about that? What about all?" It listed all these reasons, almost like a confession, why I couldn't be this. And I thought about them, and this wave of utter love just came up in me. And it was like, I don't know whether I said it or whether I became aware of a voice and just said, it doesn't matter. And I believed it. And I went, none of this matters. It's been pretend. It's been a game. And then with that feeling, I was like, I've been pretending to be somebody. I've been pretending to be somebody my entire life. And I was like, I'm not this thing that I've said I am. And neither is anybody else. It's like we're just in a big play and we've decided I'll be this character, you be that character, and this is how they might interact. And it was just so funny because it was so obvious. Once I'd saw it, it was the most obvious thing in the world. I couldn't believe that I hadn't saw it before. And so I was laughing and laughing. Now, bear in mind, there's a guy getting changed next to me in the gym, and he must be thinking that I am an absolute lunatic at this stage because I'm crying and then I'm laughing and then I'm sitting down and like holding my head like I can't believe this is happening. And all these things started flooding to me, like memories of every time I could have just remembered this, every time this had been pointed to, but I just ignored it. And it was like in the UK, we have things called pantomimes, like shows on at Christmas. And it's kind of like Cinderella or something else. And there's a running joke in the pantomime that the pantomime baddie comes in but he stands behind the hero, so the hero can't see them. And the audience always shouts, "He's behind you." But as the hero turns around, he moves, so he never actually sees him. Do you know he always hides behind him? That's how it felt. It felt like this thing had been there all the time, but every time I turned around, I just didn't see it. But now I saw it so clearly that the joke was I was blind before. I was pretending I couldn't see. So all I had with me then, I had no explanation, and I didn't even know it happened for another person because I'd never heard of self-realization. I didn't know this had ever happened before. So for all I know, I'm the only person in the world that this has ever happened to. But it felt so real that I believed it straight away. I knew it was the truth. So I thought, right, I need to get dressed. I need to go and get this book, The Secret, because there must be something here. I took myself to the bookshop, and as I walked out the gym, I'm in the city centre of Glasgow, really busy city, and people are walking past me, and I just felt like I knew them all. I knew them all so intimately. It was like they'd been my brother and my mother and my sister and my child, and I was looking at them, and it was so funny because I was like, why are they in these strange shapes? Why does everybody look like this? Why does everybody look so different? And I was laughing to myself, but I didn't understand really what I was feeling, but I was thinking, you're just me, but in a different shape. And it was kind of like, as a child, you play with that thing called plasticine and you'd make models out of it.
Right.
So I could have made an entire world out of plasticine, and this would look like a tree, and these would look like the people, but actually it's just all made out of the same stuff. That's what it felt like. I was like, everything here is just me. I could never come across something that wasn't me. And I was like, what all these? I'm still not understanding. So I got to the bookshop and I asked for this book, and they pointed me in the direction, and it wasn't there. But there was a book by the same author called The Greatest Secret, which is a book about self-realization, obviously. Do you know this?
No, I haven't heard of The Great Secret.
Friend's book, The Greatest Secret. So it was the second, she then realized her true nature after investigating the law of attraction. And she wrote a book about self-realization. Of course, I don't know this. So the synchronicity of this is like crazy. And I thought, oh, this isn't the book that I want, but I'll buy it anyway. So I bought it and I thought, right, I need to go home and I need to tell people this. I can't not tell people this. And I just had this urge, tell the truth, because with Paul before, he would have told half a story, but he would have told people what he thought they wanted to hear. Or he would have, he'd have played with the truth to make it more acceptable or this. And I just had this urge, tell the truth. So I opened this book, and as I'm reading, it's describing what's just happened to me an hour ago. And I'm going, what? So now I realize this is a thing. This has happened to other people. This isn't just something that's happened to me. This has been happening since the dawn of time. So I'm like, what? And then as I'm turning the pages, I'm like, I know what's on the next page. And I turn the page, and sure enough, what's on the next page is there. It's almost like I've wrote the book. And I'm like, oh, so I'm crying again now. I'm sitting on the bus crying. And but at least I understood now. I was like, this is what has happened. I've woken up from a dream. That's how it felt. I've woken up from a dream. And I guess that's the story of my self-realization. And it's when I heard other stories, I thought this seems different. I was an average Joe. I didn't believe in anything. I didn't prove myself worthy. I didn't go to ashrams and purify myself. I didn't do the whole spiritual thing. But yet this was for me. This happened to me, which means that this is for everybody. I'm not special. There's nothing special about me. So if this happened, if I was able to wake up like this, then this is inevitable for every single other apparent person in this world. It's just the next step. It's like there's no getting away from it for any of us. But also, there's no proving yourself worthy. It's not an achievement.
No.
It's not something that I need to go, oh, this can be for me when I let go of this bad habit or I prove myself good enough. It just felt like I've always been good enough. I was just pretending to be this thing that I'm not. So that's my story anyway. And that's why I feel called to share, because I don't want people to watch videos about self-realization online and think that it's like for superheroes or it's for people who whose karma is so good because they've had 100 good lifetimes and they've been to Muji's ashram and they've done this and they've ticked off all the boxes. So now it's okay for it to happen. Because if it happened for me like that out of the blue, then it can happen for any single person on this planet or any other planet, you know?
Yeah. Wow, wow. I didn't interrupt you at all there because I was just so engrossed. What a story. And the way you have described it, it's hard to believe that you have no spiritual background because you have used all the spiritual terms and all the experiences and all the, everything is completely spiritual. Your Kundalini awakening, the plasticine example is what I got in my mind as well. It's all made out of the same substance. It's just the plasticine tree is looking at the plasticine dog and thinking they're different from each other. And
Yes.
what happens later on, they mold into something else, yet they're still the same plasticine.
Yes.
Um, the way you have amazing. What a story. What a story. This story needs to get out to people. And I love the way you say that it is not for anybody special. It is your birthright. It is, and not only that, there is nobody who is not going to wake up to this. You can't get out of the dream alive.
There is
And
nobody. That's the thing. There is nobody. So
yes,
now all of a sudden, I'm still here. I'm still surrounded by people who know me as Paul, but I just don't believe I'm him anymore.
yeah,
So at the same time, I don't believe my mother is my mother. I believe it's a role she's playing. And
right.
to some people, that seems a bit sad. When I've tried to say that to my family, my mum's been like, "What do you mean you're not my son and I'm not your mum?" I'm like, "Because we're the same thing." It's like, you know, when you've got a mango and you chop a mango into squares, but then you fold it out on itself
Yeah,
and all
yeah,
the squares stick up, but they're
yeah.
still just a mango. But now it seems like they're individual bits. But it's not, it's just a mango being cut into pieces. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Beautiful.
So, yeah.
It's like I'm very fascinated with the pizza boxes. You know, where you get delivery of pizza. If you open up the box and put it, it's just a flat piece of paper, cardboard, and it's folded in such a way now it becomes a three-dimensional object. It was two-dimensional, it's now become three. Fascinating. The same one little thing. Um, so did you now this is when you came into Glasgow and this is during your teenage years? Um,
Oh no, so this is 2 years ago.
2 years ago. Okay.
A little over 2 years.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Sorry, 2022. Yeah, I remember. Yeah. So now, did you have, like you said, you speak about this to your mother, and she says, "What do you mean I'm not your mother?" And did you have this kind of difficulty? Do you go around talking to random people or other people about this,
I,
or
I
how did
did,
they
I
react?
did, I did at first because you can't feel this and not feel that you're trying to save everyone until you realize that everybody is perfectly where they should be. But my feeling at first was, I need to give this. I felt so full. I felt so rich.
Yeah,
I had everything. So the first thing I wanted to do was give. What can I give to you? What can I give to you? And I tried to do it probably in like an adolescent way. I just wanted to tell everybody this, but realizing that it's not for everybody's ears right away, you know. But the funny thing is, people have found me. It's the way it works is people have found me who need to hear this. But the people that I've thought that I need to tell have been exactly the people whose ears aren't open to it right now, you know?
yeah,
So I learned that really quickly early on, that just because you're in my family or you're a person that I love, one of Paul's loved ones, doesn't mean that your mind is ripe to be able to hear this yet.
yeah,
But other people have just stumbled across me. It's honestly, it's the way it works. It's like some kind of beautiful orchestration. Like
yeah,
it's um, it's been great. But I told my entire family. I told all my friends, and I think it intimidated a lot of people. I think then you become a mirror. You become a mirror for them, and it's really hard for them to look into it because they're really still clinging to their story. This is mine. This is my past, and these are my dreams, and these are my worries, and these are all the things that I had. But it was just a set of limitations. It was just a character that I gave myself. A personality is basically just a little box that you put yourself into to say, I can only be this, but I'm everything. So for other people to try and hear this, like I say, if they're not ready to hear it, it seems almost offensive to them. Like I've had a lot of people say, you're telling me this world is like a dream, but what about this war? What about these people who are suffering from cancer? What about these people who? And of course, all these things appear to be happening in this world. Of
Yeah.
course they do. There's suffering in this world. There's so much of it. But it's like the world is an outer projection of our inner turmoil, of this inner turmoil of feeling like I used to be everything and somehow I feel like I've swapped it for nothing. And all of a sudden now I feel anxious and I feel lonely and I feel insignificant. But in the back of my mind, I feel we've all got this feeling of I used to be everything. I used to have everything. How did I shortchange myself for this? Do you know?
Yeah. I'm with you. Absolutely. Go on, go on.
So so I learned that when I was the people that I wanted to
Yeah.
save or whatever I was to try and wake up
Yeah.
turned out not to be the people who could hear it, which is funny to me now. I laugh about it now.
Yeah. I
And
get it.
with some of my friends, we've kind of naturally drifted apart, and it's okay. I don't judge the situation, but they can't hear. They can't be around me just now because the mirror that I am to them is too difficult to look in.
Yeah. Yeah.
And with everybody, the relationship has changed.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
the next step for me was I feel like I need to share this story. I feel like I need to prove that if it can happen for somebody who said that there was no God, there was no anything, just what all that exists is matter. Do you know what I mean? And was so adamant on that. Then this can be for anybody. If we look back at history, Adolf Hitler was this. I know he did horrific things within the dream,
Yeah.
but he was this. If I look
Yeah.
at Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin and the atrocities of the world, but I can't judge it because they are still this. They're just playing a more difficult character within the story.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I thought, right, I'm gonna try and make some video content. I've never put anything on YouTube before. I've never done anything like that. But I'm a teacher, so I'm used to speaking in
Yeah.
front of people. And I just thought, right. And again, my mind probably wanted to kick back in there and say, be a certain way. It wanted pretenses and things. And I was like, no, I just need to speak honestly, openly. If it doesn't sound professional, because I'm seeing all these other people online and it all looks so professional and so glossy
Yeah.
and, high budget Americanism and whatever. And I'm just like, do you know what? I turn on the camera in my little room and I just tell the truth. And I
Yeah.
thought, that's all I can do. That's all I can do. And so people started getting in touch with me. I put my email underneath. I said, I'm contactable. If you feel called to speak to me, speak to me. And so people started getting in touch. And I realized it was exactly the people that I needed to speak to as well. There was always like a give and a take in these things.
Yeah.
So, it's not like me setting myself on a pedestal as some kind of teacher or some kind of guru. Like that whole thought makes me sick.
Yeah.
But it's us coming together to try and work out our errors or to try and kind of let go of, like, undo our own little knitting pattern that we've knitted somehow. So I've met so many lovely people around the world, and the strange thing is the issues that they've come with, like, oh, I'd like to speak about this. I've always been something from Paul's story as well, so it's something that I needed to undo and see clearly in the light as well. So there's always like this we're working together. We've got a shared interest here. It's not me giving to you. It's us coming together with a common goal.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. Amazing, amazing. I relate to that. I was a pop singer. I'm from Kenya, lived in the UK, studied music there. Then I went to Dubai. I came down to India. In India, been based here for about 20 years, 25 years now. So I'm a pop singer. I work with the Punjabi music and done a bit of Bollywood as well. And I've performed stage shows all around the world. And so when this happened to me, I had a similar kind of awakening where you had the Kundalini awakening. I had where I suddenly it's something like lightning struck me and I was thrown and I was the universe. Wherever I looked, I was there then and that. Time had stopped. My breath had stopped. Uh, and when I came back, when my mind came back, the first thoughts were, how is this possible? It's not possible. Secondly, if I spoke about this to anybody, nobody's going to believe me. They're going to think I've lost it. But it was the most blissful. experience, and I spent the next 8, 9, 10 months trying to get back there. And did I just freeze over there? Ah, okay, I'm back. Yeah, so I tried to spend, I thought maybe I did something that triggered that. And I tried to remember everything and just it did not work. But I remembered that that was the truth of what I was. I could not see my body. There was no body. And wherever I looked, it was me. And then, so when I came back, I was a devotee of Krishna at that time. And I remember distinctly that no, it was not Krishna. That was me. Whatever it was me. It was not God, it was me. And I couldn't comprehend it. Then I came down to Advaita Vedanta. And then, so when I got it logically, uh, I decided I can't go out and talk about this because people are going to think this pop star has gone mad. Now he's talking about spirituality. So I put everything of mine, all the knowledge into books. 2019, I wrote 10 books. And then I still did not talk to anybody because I realized that nobody's going to get it. And now, just for the past 8, 10 months, I've been going out, and now the urge is there to go and share this with everybody. And I, like you, again, realized very quickly nobody wants to hear about this. Nobody's interested in this. My own, in the people in my family, my sister is awakened. She gets it. She has got it since childhood. My The others in the family don't get it at all, and I was in the beginning trying to make them understand. Then pretty soon I realized no, everything is perfect as it is. You don't need to change anybody. Everyone will awaken to this at their own time. And when you spoke about Hitler, Donald Trump, and all the wars, the children that are dying and all that, my explanation for that is now, see, we spoke about the one substance that is everything, or one dream and one dreamer. So there's one intelligence that is orchestrating everything. Now, if God wants to play a villain, he's going to play the best villain they ever could be. He wants to play a hero, he's going to play the best hero they could be. He wants to write a story, he's going to write the best story that could ever be. So we hate Hitler, we love Mother Teresa, we have all that. That's God playing through us, if you want to believe in a God. That's the dream. You would have the best dream that would have all the emotions, all the ups and the downs. Um,
Yeah.
so,
Oh, 100%.
so yeah. Tell me, why did you get into atheism? Was something not was there something you were against spirituality? Because all traditions and all religions, so I went back to all the religions and understood at the core of their teachings is non-duality. It's the truth. It's the same one thing. Uh-huh.
I
Go on.
mean, within Catholicism, obviously, we're told God had one son, and it wasn't you. You know, so you're set up straight away. We're born sinners, and apparently, Jesus died to absolve us of our sins, but yet we're still sinners now. So that plan mustn't have worked.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So again, it just didn't make sense to me. I was like, she's got one son, and we were all sinners, and then he had to die so we wouldn't be sinners anymore, and so he did die, but we're still sinners apparently. So how? So did God's plan not work? And I was thinking, how can you? Do you know? It just didn't make sense.
Yeah.
There was a lot of things about God he had chosen people, the people of God, and he sent plagues on other people, and he said, did it. And I was like, so we're all God's children, but yet God would send plagues on. It just didn't make sense to me. It didn't make sense to me at all.
Yeah.
Because I was going, you tell me God is love, and then you tell me, but he doesn't like these people. And this one time he sent a flood to kill all his children, and this other time. And so I was like, this doesn't make sense for me. So it didn't make sense to the point that I just thought this must just be a fairy story. This must just be a really popular fairy story that people have, mass hysteria, people have believed in. And so I just thought to myself, as a logical person, I don't think I can believe in something which contradicted itself so much.
Okay.
So I was like, so that contradiction made me think, there must be nothing to this. Now, when I say I'm an atheist, I didn't make an identity out of atheism. I just
Okay.
thought, I don't think there is anything. I looked to science for the explanations as to why we're here, and that was that. And then once you started feeling that blissful feeling, that I recognized as myself, I was like, that feeling is the thing that we would call God. It is radiant. It's all, it doesn't know lack. It's just given, 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 given. What can I give? What can I give? I have enough. What can I give?
Yeah.
And so I was like, we've just got it wrong. And so in that way, I didn't feel the need to point fingers at world religions and things and be like, oh, you've got it wrong with what you've done and look at the mess it's made or anything like that. I
Yeah.
felt really compassionate, like a group of children who'd just been playing a game that went horribly wrong. And they did it and they hate themselves with it and they judged themselves with it and they thought they weren't good enough because of it. But none of it was ever true. But
Yeah.
none of it was ever true. So in the way that I might watch like a little group of like kind of toddlers playing a game of house and the dramas they go through and this and that and the other thing, and they take it so seriously while they're playing the game. But as an adult, I look and I realize no one's in danger here. Nothing's really happened.
Yeah.
It just felt like that. So
Yeah.
I suppose I've now come around to religions as every path, whatever you're doing, is perfect, and every road leads home. Some might seem to be longer paths.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Some might seem to go this way, and some might seem to go that way, but there's only one way to go. And
Yeah.
so there is only really choice doesn't exist. The choice is for truth. And if you're not choosing truth, you're choosing a dream, you're choosing illusion, you're choosing something that isn't. And that might seem like a million different choices, but actually they're all the same choice, and it's the choice not for truth, which means you're not choosing at all, really. You're just choosing to waste time, to play in the mud a little bit longer.
Yeah.
So actually at this point now, my point of being, I look at the world and I look at, like you say, the drama, I look at the suffering, I look at this, and I think my sphere of influence is here. So I haven't watched the news for maybe about 8 years. I stopped watching the news because I think something in me was like, this is poisonous, like you're eating poison here, like that's how it felt. And again, I've got a lot of friends who are very political, very left wing, very, very caring, and they'd start telling me about, oh, the terrible plight of this or the terrible plight of that. And I was like, okay, so give money to the charity then. Like, that's it. That's your choice. That's the one thing you can do. Go there, get on a plane now and help, or give money to the charity. But sitting here talking about it and saying, oh, it's so terrible, and oh, this world, you're not helping anybody. You're not helping yourself, and you're not helping them. So I realized that my sphere of influence is exactly here, the people I meet every day.
Yeah.
And I was like, all I can do is be as kind, as loving, and as truthful as I can be to the people who come in front of me every day. And that is my lot. I can't change what's happening on the other side of the world. I can't change somebody who doesn't want to be changed. All I can do is come at everything with love and always tell the truth. And so that's the way I live my life now.
You have just described what God is. I'll tell you what God is. I studied a lot of the Hindu texts and the different traditions. Um, so in Kashmiri Shaivism, they talk about Shakti, the power of God, or Shakti is the power of Shiva. And the Shakti, the power is the one that has created this entire illusion. And it has three powers. I'll just wait for me to get back. I don't know why the internet is, yeah. So Shakti has three powers, which are within us. It's the power to feel emotions, the mental power to think thoughts, understand things, and the physical power to do things with the body. These are the three powers of God. And so with emotions, you can believe in something called God. With intellectuals, with your mind, with your intellect faculty, you can understand the truth. And with your physical body, you can only serve other people. So what you're saying is like you can look at everybody just with love and talk the truth and serve them. That is what God is. There is no me involved in it anymore.
There is no me. And I guess to a lot of people that's frightening. The idea of
Yeah.
not being a me is frightening because they think if I'm not the story that I've told myself,
Yes.
I must be nothing. I'm nothing. And the idea of being nothing must feel like a void to them, like I don't exist. But actually, when you stop being the role that you've give yourself, you become everything.
Yeah.
You are everything. You don't lose a single thing. You gain everything. So that idea of letting go of the story of Paul and Paul's likes and Paul's dislikes and Paul's achievements and Paul's failures and all the sandcastle that I built called Paul, well, I just knocked it right down because it wasn't saving me. It was only saving to be a prison. I was holding myself captive in this idea of a person. So actually being nothing, being open to the fact that maybe I don't know anything, that's something that I have to keep on reminding myself. Like everything that comes up, that maybe in this perspective, even with this realization, maybe I still don't know the full picture. You know, being open-minded enough that like, show me. I don't know, show me. That's what I say about everything now. Because as soon as I say I know, Paul clicks back in. The Paul character comes back in online, and he wants to start being the person, the big I am, the big know-it-all who knows this, and I know more than you. But so I have to just say now, I don't know, show me. And also now in every situation I get into, I go, make this decision for me. Choose these words for me. Like just let me be a channel. Let me be a channel for whatever it is that is to happen. Because as soon as I start thinking, oh, I think this is what's happened, then everything goes to absolute chaos. And it always has. So that's where being a person got me. Where did being a person get me? It brought me dissatisfaction. It brought me chaos. It brought me anxiety. So now that I'm not considering myself as a person, easy days, life just cruises by and things happen. And I just go, in every situation, where's the love here? How do I love you? What do you need? And you'll still come across difficult people. Things will still go wrong. It's not like my life is now like unicorns go past and, you know, it's just all like a fairy tale. I'm in the same world that everybody else is in. And I still meet people who are very difficult to be around, but I go, you're scared. You're asking for love and you don't know that that's what you're asking for. Do you know what I mean? And it doesn't mean to say that I need to be Mother Teresa and go over and, you know, if someone's difficult, yeah, I don't need to spend time with them, but I don't change my behavior. I change my mind about the situation. And I just think, oh, I see why you're acting like this, because I've been scared as well. And I've felt not good enough. And I've felt anxiety and I've felt lonely. And it's made me act out in loads of strange ways as well. So I understand you and I love you. And I just say that in my mind. I say that in my mind to them. Don't worry, this isn't you. I understand why you're doing this. You've got nothing to worry about. And that's my service.
Beautiful. Does this actually, the way you put it, it's just like you said, we are mirroring ourselves in other people. So if anybody is making your life difficult, there probably must be something within you that needs to change or hear that, or you need to get away from that kind of energy. But it's nothing to do with the other person. It's to do with you. It's like Rumi. I think Rumi, somebody had quoted, yesterday, I was clever and I wanted to change the world. Today, I am wise, so I am changing myself.
Yes, that's all she can do. It's
Yeah.
the only power we have. The only power we have. And we've always looked outside of ourselves for answers, but really there is truly nothing outside of ourselves. So I've gone, if I change this situation, then I'll feel happier. If I change this person, if I get a different partner, if I get a different job. And it's always all these carrots on sticks telling me if I go this way, I'll find satisfaction. But actually the road never taught me. It looked like sometimes it brought me things that I was happier with. So, but it never truly brought me satisfaction. All these different paths that I ran down really never brought me satisfaction. And now that I know what satisfaction is, it's the knowing of myself. I don't need to chase it anywhere else anymore. So it's just such a relief. It's just such a relief. I am the happiness that I said that I wanted. I am the security I was looking for. I am the abundance that I wanted to earn in the world. I am already all of those things. So actually the world can happen around me, but I don't need to depend on it the way I thought that I did before. It's funny.
So beautiful.
I've got this idea of, you know, like a boat on the ocean at the mercy of the weather. And if the storm, the boat, you know, and I always thought that that's how it worked. I thought when it's stormy, my boat jumps around. When it's fine, my boat sails clearly, things like that, until I've realized the weather is inside the boat, not outside of it. Do you know what I mean? So
Wow.
I give this power to these things outside of myself. I said, oh, if it's a sunny day, it's a happy day. If it's a rainy day, it's a miserable day. If it's a, I did all it. I give all these things. I would give the power away until I realized it was only ever my choice. I chose to be happy. I chose to be miserable. I made every choice myself and blamed it on all of these external factors when they really had nothing to do with it.
Wow, wow, Paul, you are so good. Tell me now, when you said you started talking about this on YouTube, and you have people coming to you, and rightly you say that the people who need to hear it are the ones who are now approaching you, and that's what I found out in my uh, in my experience as well. This channel that I started off is also mainly for people who are already on the non-dual path, who have some understanding or some need some clarity, or maybe need to hear other people who have gone through it, hear their stories, and maybe pick up some words that we might say, that might change their course. um what is what are the kind of questions that people ask you, and how do you give them clarity? And how can people get in touch with you if they want to learn more from you, apart from the YouTube channel and the email? I'll put all those links at the bottom here.
Yeah. So really, my message is the normality of this. This is not exotic.
Yeah.
This is not like a tiny little jewel that's to be earned and to like this. How can you become what you already are? It's a nonsensical question. It's like you're looking out of your front window in your house for your own house.
Yeah.
You're looking out of your front window saying, where is my house?
Yeah.
Do you know, that's the joke of this. Once you see it, it's so obvious. I sometimes put it down to, maybe you'll remember these in the 90s. There used to be like these posters that they called Magic Eye posters, and they were kind of like circles and squares and things like that. And you stared at them and relaxed your gaze, then a 3D image kind of came into view. Do you remember those
Yeah,
things?
yeah, stereograms. In fact, I added one of them in one of my books because it just brought that to mind.
Because the
Yeah.
thing is, that thing was always there, but you just weren't seeing it.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, when you do see it, the question is, how did I not see this before? Because it's so obvious. It was always there. But while you're not seeing it and you're looking in all these different places and you're so distracted, because that's all the world is a distraction. It's the drama of it is to keep us distracted, to stop us from going inside. And so in that way, I think like the sheer normality of it, that's the message that I want to get across. I am from a working class background. I am from a single parent family. My mother was a cleaner. I didn't have a father present. I grew up on a council estate. There is nothing special or exotic or privileged about my story. And then even once I go into my adult life, I did nothing to earn this. I didn't prove myself pure enough. I didn't tick off all the things that every good spiritual person is supposed to do. I didn't do anything, but I was still able, just don't ask me how, whether it's an act of grace, don't ask me how, but I was still able just to see it. And so that is for you. So people come to me saying, with a romanticized idea of what this is. People come to me like with an idea that we are somehow now on a pedestal, we're above them. And I'm like, oh good, if anything, I place myself below you. How can I be of service? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's just this idea of there is nobody above me, but also nobody below me. It's just utter normality. But while we're so occupied with the story and the dreams, we want to keep on dreaming, and there's always another desire to be fulfilled, or there's always something more exciting over the next hill. While we occupy our mind with those things, it's just not getting that moment to be quiet and look at itself and be like, it's right here. Everything I ever wanted is right here. And it's so funny. So yeah, I speak to people one on one on Zoom meetings. That's basically the size of it. And I've also found that that's something I need to get out the way of, because the right people find me at the right time. So my email, I put my email underneath my YouTube channel. My YouTube channel, oh, I had to change the channel because I'm a school teacher, and I had lots of school and lots of kids in my class coming to me being like, I found your YouTube channel, and we're not so, you know, I was just a bit like, I don't know whether I want to deal with this. So I changed it from my name, which is Paul Beckett, but I changed it to self-realization and ... So maybe if you could link to that, but I welcome people to get in touch with me, because we have shared interests. This is not a guru type situation. This is not me pretending to have more than you or anything. It's just, if I've got a clearer view, then let me share that with you, and then let you see that you always saw that as well, but you were just distracted. Do you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Beautiful. Beautiful. I understand where you speak about that you have always been this, and how did you miss it? And now that you've realized, oh, whatever you are is evident, how could you not see it, and nothing has changed? Everything has changed and nothing has changed.
Yes.
And one of my friends, uh, one of my one of my mentors, he's the one who put me on to the Upanishads and the Vedas. He told me, once I was done with the bhakti yoga, with the devotion, I could not read anything related to God anymore. So I spoke to this guy who had gifted me the Bhagavad Gita, and he said, I think you're ready for Vedanta, which is non-duality, Advaita Vedanta. So I started reading those books. And so he recently called me up, and in one of the Upanishads, so this substance that we are talking about, the plasticine, that everything is made out, the Upanishads call it Brahman. And in one of the Upanishads, it says, uh, the knower of Brahman becomes Brahman. And so his question to me was, so I know a chair, I don't become the chair. I know a table, I don't become the table. So how will I become Brahman when I know Brahman? That's not possible. And so I gave him a brilliant example. I said, most of the people do not know that a tomato or tomato is a fruit. Everybody uses it as a vegetable. And so the moment you know that it's a fruit botanically, biologically, what happens? Nothing changes. The tomato will still be used as a vegetable. Nothing changes apart from your knowledge about it. It's like we say, when we are children, we look up and we see a blue sky, and we think the sky is blue. And we grow up, we go to school, we learn that the sky is colorless. There is no color. And so when we look up, we still see a blue sky. So it's always going to look like that, but it is not really that. So brilliant. You being a school teacher, have I think you should put these teachings down. Have you thought of writing a book, putting this down in some written format where people can read about this? Because with your skills of teaching, this would benefit a lot of people.
You know, maybe it is something that I do in future. I don't know, because I'm also very aware. Like, before I speak to people online, I'll go quiet for 5 minutes, and I'll be like, what will be said? Like, I understand it's not me doing it. Does
Yeah,
that make sense? Me
yeah,
as Paul. So I'm just like, there's an opportunity. If you've this opportunity has arose, so there must be a reason for it. What needs to be said? And I don't choose the words.
yeah,
I don't, when I make my videos, I don't even make an outline of what I'm going to speak about.
right.
I just open my mouth and speaking happens. Do you know what I mean?
Yes,
And I've
yes,
realized that actually is the best way to keep the ego out of what I'm doing, because
no,
even on this side, there is still the temptation to fall back into old behaviors. There's still the temptation to fall back into old thought patterns. But the difference being, there's such a space between me and that thought, that actually I'm like, I see what that is. That's like an invitation back into the game. It's an invitation back into the limitation, and I don't need to accept it. Whereas before, that voice, that thought was me. I thought any thought I heard in my head, that's my voice. I used to tell myself. Whereas now it's kind of like watching adverts on a TV. I might watch them, but it doesn't mean I'm going to buy everything. They're just happening, you know.
yeah.
So I guess maybe if a book comes out, then a book comes out. But
Yeah, yeah. No,
the
I'm just
way
saying it would, as from what I've you're the first person I'm probably asking to write a book, because your way of describing this, number one, because you don't have any spiritual background, you don't have the jargon of Brahman, Atman, bliss, Sachidananda, you don't have that. And I understand because you're talking from what you are. You don't need to look anywhere to talk anything.
Yeah.
Everything is coming from that one space or whatever we actually are. It's coming from there and it will be the truth, nothing but the truth. And it will come in response to whatever needs to be said at the time. So it's
Mm.
just flowing through. You're not thinking about what to say. I get that.
Mm.
That's beautiful. But I would urge you to put something down because you're such a brilliant teacher. You are a school teacher anyway. So the art of teaching this, there are many people who get realized, but then because they don't have the art of teaching, cannot put it across in a good way. So I would urge you to do that. I would be the first person to buy that. You have
Thank
one
you.
customer here.
Thank you very much. Thank you. We'll
Okay.
see. Who
Yeah.
knows?
Paul, we've almost come to an hour. Is there anything that you would like to say that I have missed out? Now, this channel is for people who are on the path, who are trying to get clarity, who are listening from different perspectives of whatever we call it, consciousness, existence, non-duality, self-realized, whatever we call it. They're looking for clarity on that. Is there anything that I might have missed out that you would want to add on for somebody who's on the path?
I'm just gonna leave it with something controversial, and this is again not to I don't when someone tells me their beliefs, I never want to oppose them because that's where they are. But this is something that I haven't heard very often. It's something that I really feel. So when I realized that this entire dream was me, like we say, and I wanted to call that God in the same way that you did. I wanted to call it God until I went deeper into that in a meditation, and I thought, God cannot be mistaken. God cannot deceive itself. So actually, the consciousness that's having this dream is an illusory consciousness that can be imperfect. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
it can lose itself in a dream. It can forget what it is.
yes.
You know what I mean? It needs to be able to experience this dream fully. It can't be perfect because it needs to be hoodwinked by the dream. It needs to be deceived. Okay.
Yeah.
So actually, when I my thoughts are now, and it might be a controversial opinion, but the way we call this, the Maya or whatever it is, as God's dream, God's play. I go, is it really, or is it a very, very insignificant daydream that's happening to an imaginary consciousness that could be thing? Because the thing that I recognize as God, as the source, as the creator of all that is, could not be deceived. It
Cannot.
could not be deceived. So actually, being a person within this play, within this world, within this universe, I want this to be really important. But in the grand scheme of things, I don't think it actually is.
Yeah.
I think it's a blip of a flight of fancy, the equivalent of a half a second daydream. Do you know what I mean? And so in that, lighten up. That's what it's come to me. Like, it's like laugh. Do you know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like I don't need to bog myself down with traditions and dogmas and all of these things. I just need to face everything with humor, with kindness, with love, and don't take the entire thing too seriously. Now, I know within our lives we've got traumas and we've got this and we've got all this suffering. So to say that might seem almost insensitive, but from this point of view where I am, I'm like, I'm just like, do you know what? We all need to lighten up, even in spirituality. Even in spirituality, because I watch a lot of spiritual things that are very, very serious, and that's not what I saw. That's not what I saw, and it's very. And we're all going to be silent, and I'm going to dress in these special things, and you're going to dress in those special things. Somebody ring the bell, and I'm like, we're making an identity out of it. And remember, this game is to shed our identities. Do you know what I mean? So that's my closing statement. A bit controversial is what even if the identity we make for ourselves as a self-realized person isn't true. Do you know what I mean? We're letting go and letting go and letting go until there's nothing left. Not until there's something I enjoy being more than that. No, letting go until there's nothing left.
I love the way you said that somebody will ring the bell somewhere these clothes, because I had the same realization and I was like, why is everybody so serious about this? Why? It's the biggest joke that could
It's
happen.
no, it's nothing. It's a big puff of smoke of nothing. It's nothing.
Oh. All right. Paul, I'm not going to add anything to that. That's a perfect note to close down on. Thank you so much. It's been an honor. I'm going to get you on again after a few months if you'd be open to this. This was beautiful. This is from, like you said in the beginning, completely from a different point of view from the other people that I've interviewed. Most of them have been through scriptures, they've been through some practices and, believed in something or thought about something. But you have come from very different perspective and it's like a breath of fresh air. Beautiful. Thank you so much for being on this.
Thank you, Sukhdev. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you.